Larry, the first thing, can I get you to say and spell your first and last name?
Yep, Larry Kuehn, Larrykuehn.
And Larry, what's your position and where are you at?
I'm a research scientist at the U.S. Meat Research Center, a branch of the USDA Agricultural Research Service.
Very good. So Larry, can you tell me a little bit about USDA and the Meat Animal Research Center?
Yeah, the Meat Animal Research Center is one of many stations of the Agricultural Research Service. We are the in-house research arm for agriculture with the USDA. And so we're all funded internally trying to make sure we commit to research problems that are things that aren't always handled as well by universities because they're long-term projects that have a long-term benefit that can't be done in other places very well. We work on the germplasm evaluation program our geneticists do at the Meat Animal Research Center. This is a program that's gone on for actually almost 50 years now. And I've worked on it for about 10 or 12 with two other colleagues, Mark Tallman and Dr. Warren Snelling. And we do a lot of breed evaluation. We produce factors that allow breeders to compare the genetic merit of EPDs calculated in different breeds to each other from that program and work very collaboratively with the industry as a result.
One thing, I'm going to steal your name tag from you.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yes, probably reflecting on it, right?
It's, well, oops.
Yeah, that's not going to work well, right?
There we go.
Got it?
There we go.
I'm okay with what I said already.
Yes,
though.
oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we won't redo that.
Because I couldn't do that again.
No,
probably.
that was
Sorry,
perfect.
but we didn't give it back.
You did?
Yeah, we'll give it back this time. There we go.
Got it?
Yep,
All right.
perfect.
Good.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So then, in terms of those, being able to compare that data breed-wise and everything, what's the value?
The value is huge. What it does is it allows commercial producers to rank bulls equitably across breeds. It gives them a factor to add to the EPDs of different breeds and allows them to choose which ones are the best fit for their system. This is particularly important. We do it for a lot of weight traits, we do it for a lot of carcass traits, and we find out cases where there's complementarity between breeds where if you were crossbreeding and mixing them together, you would get a lot more out by maybe complementing the strengths of your cow herd with a terminal cross that might do a good job in your calves that you produce.
Now, with that heterosis and with that crossbreeding for those terminal sires, what's the value that Solaire can bring to?
Sure. Our data would show, and a byproduct of these factors we get are we get yearly breed yearly breed differences that are adjusted to their current mean. And so what we see on that, what we publish every year in our most recent publication would show that Solaire for the continental breeds has some of the highest marbling value, all while maintaining a fairly lean product, so which is a bit of an outlier. Most of the breeds would not have that necessarily. They look like they have competitive marbling and they have a pretty high ribeye area. If you use ribeye as an indicator of yield, they're competitive with the other continental breeds, maybe not the highest, but they're right up there, and not bad back fat. So this is not really the way we typically think these things is going together right now. That can complement several other. It could complement another lean breed, or it could complement a maternal breed in trying to bring those things into market values that are useful. In addition to that, we've been looking at other traits, some more novel traits, feed intake, feed efficiency, and things like that. And we just published a paper here in the last few years on feed intake and feed efficiency values. Solaire does not grow as fast as some of the other breeds. It's a place where you'd look for complementarity in your crossbreeding program. But in terms of that growth, they have a very cheap price for being in the feedlot. So feeding them a little bit longer when they're eating somewhere around 2 pounds less per day of feed than some of the other breeds is fairly advantageous and could really go together with another breed that's got a super high growth rate. And with the marbling, the whole picture, yeah, I can see it in a real value in a crossbreeding program.
To your average commercial producer and stuff, Solaire, they in a lot of ways are kind of the unicorn in some ways.
That's a little unusual for sure, yes.
What would you tell a producer, especially out in the western side of the states and stuff?
Yeah. You know, if you've got I mean, a lot of breeds, a lot of cow herds out there are English composition, right? I mean, we all know that. And nothing for or against that, but I can show a real complementary advantage. You're not going to probably lose that marbling with just what you're saying, and still get some lean growth as a result in a cross. It's a complementary cross that could work as a good terminal sire in that case. I don't want to take away from potential maternal attributes at all, but that's just a place where I could see based on what most of our commercial program is right now, a real fit in trying to get Solera and use the Solera bull to complement. So.
Sorry, I'm drawing it.
No problem.
Talk to me about, just in general, talk to me the difference that you see with work with the meat animal research, differences between breed to breed, kind of, and how there is kind of a big difference.
Well, you know, it's interesting. What we've actually seen over the years here is actually a convergence of some of the attributes of the breeds, particularly in the EPDs we've had around for the longest time. When we started, and this is before my time, of course, when we started the germplasm evaluation, it was a clear indication that the prominent British breeds were much smaller, probably more maternal attributes, probably a little higher, less lean composition, more fat composition than the continental breeds, including Solera, that were coming in about that time. And what we've seen happen over time has been really a convergence, especially in growth rate, where those British breeds have selected very, very hard for growth, and the other breeds have not selected as hard, selected still, but not selected as hard for that same growth. We've seen those come together. Places that haven't come together as much have been some of these carcass attributes. Marbling is very heritable, but it hasn't been measured as long, and probably not under quite as much pressure from all breeds. So that probably hasn't changed as much. It does make a difference that some of the British breeds were already higher in marbling, so they continue to select, and their pressure, because of their herd size, might be able to be higher. We probably won't see that same convergence as quickly there. So that's kind of what we see. It's really important to make sure you're thinking of the perspective of these breed differences over time, because the selection programs that are being led by the breeders really are what drives what's going to happen. I'll just comment with that. There are some very good leaders in Solera. I've met several of them before and giving talks over the past few years. And there's some real drivers trying to make sure things are going here. If we talk about the growth rate, they want to make sure that goes. I know there's always disposition discussion, and that's been being addressed quite well in the breed right now, just if you look at what's going on. So there's a lot of good things going on if from an outsider perspective, if the breed can be helping themselves with, and they have some good progressive breeders trying to do it. So.
With those progressive breeders too, what value do you see genomics playing?
Yeah, genomics genomics is huge where we're going with this. It's given the opportunity, probably more than anything, finding out some accuracy in young cattle before we typically would have with progeny testing. And there's some real advantages across all breeds in being able to take advantage of that early accuracy. It's probably helping more in some of the smaller breeds in terms of registration numbers in some ways, because they've had a lot of expense in trying to do progeny testing in the past. And I'm not going to go away from data. We need data to do this well. Performance recording has to continue, be bigger than it ever was, really, for genomics to do well. But that said, that performance data as a collective can come together and help out some of the breeders, probably more than what has been available in the past.
You kind of touched on it there, that importance of having that hard data, especially
Right.
for the work you're doing. Talk to me about the value.
Can't encourage more strongly the necessity of performance data. We've got to look for other avenues in all breeds for making sure that data that we haven't traditionally obtained before we're able to obtain. Some of the talks I'll be giving here at BAF and others are really trying to figure out ways to recover commercial data to help inform our decisions back at the breed level. And really that's something that hasn't happened very well in the past, because there's a lot of expense to try and get commercial data in. what we need to be able to try to see is what can we give the commercial producers, both the feedlot, the cow-calf, and maybe the abattoir. It's a little tougher, but what can we give them in return for being able to collect that data that makes it of value to both the win-win. So.
That's, and this is maybe more of a comment than anything, but that disconnect between, I mean, my dad would love to get data back on calves, but unless you're retaining ownership, and then
Exactly. Whereas if we were able to incentivize, this is how we can help you with the management you could be doing on these cattle in the feedlot might be more willing to say, this is something we can do to get that data back a little bit better. So.
I have a question for you too, Larry. We've been approached by another professor about maybe the validity and importance of being able to determine breed percentage in a commercial cow-calf operation. If you were the Solaire breed and had a pretty good 50K genomic database, would you go ahead and try to determine which SNPs could prove what percentage Solaire you were?
It actually doesn't need to be a panel by itself. If 50K is out there, or even some of the reduced panels that are 10K, 30K, whatever the case might be, there's enough with the frequencies that we have available in the industry right now, US Mark made available with the 2000 Bull Project, that you could do a very good job with the regular panel of picking that this is the percentage of the breed that are in that animal. And what I'd hope, when I mentioned about kickbacks to the commercial industry, I actually hope that if we were looking at a feedlot that didn't know what kind of breed composition was coming in with a lot of animals they bought on a sale barn, you actually could get an idea of the percentage breed composition of that lot and do something with management as a result. For instance, if that lot was highly lean production but not a high marbling breed composition, you might feed it less time, sell it earlier, and gain a whole lot of money on cost of gain because you just don't go as far as you would on a hot ration with something that can marble. And so you could make management decisions if you knew the breed composition coming in, and that's a place where you could see a kickback to the feedlot that actually would be useful.
Could the same be said about that aspect of using it on a commercial operation?
Yep, absolutely. You hope most of our commercial guys know more about their breed composition going in, but they don't always because, well, we've been using this bull for 5 years and we've been using that bull for 7 years, and we turn them out together and this one jumped the fence or whatever the case might be. It can be used. I will say we can do a good job of predicting that breed composition. There's probably a plus or minus 5 to 10%. And I mean, we're not going to say we are 25%, absolutely. It might be range from something like a little less than 20 to a little more than 30. And that's research we kind of looked at Mark to try to see what we could get with that as well. So, yeah.
Thinking big picture, what's the future? The future with Mark and that. What's that got? What can you guys do to help the commercial guy and help the seed starter?
Yeah, I hope we can stay up very relevant part of the industry. We work hard to do that. The GP will continue in some form. We're trying to get genomic training of predictions off of that. And what's being used mostly in the seed stock industry right now are single step approaches that kind of weight markers fairly evenly. If we're able to get causal mutations out there, those can be fitted simultaneously as effects in models with the single step, and maybe get ideas of what else is helping something like tenderness, like calpastatin and calpain have. Maybe we can move on to other places where large marker effects that we find at Meat Animal Research Center can help inform the industry. We'll continue to work on novel traits that maybe even the commercial segment doesn't do very well, and try to continue to release things like feed intake, continue to release things like differences in disease resistance, respiratory disease, primarily susceptibility, fertility, longevity, all those sorts of things that are difficult to just magically do in the seed stock and commercial industry. And I think that novel trait, that high data collection volume we have, will continue to serve both the commercial and the seed stock industry well.
Well, maybe just a bit, we've already kind of gone beyond this, but back to just you talked about the intersect between some of the breeds. From a mature cow size side of things, maybe original continentals were thought to be great big, and where do you think, in reference to continentals, at least where does the Solaire breed fit in relationship to mature size?
Sure. We have some of that a little bit right now. I won't say it's perfect yet. or released, so I don't want to go too deep on this one. We have a student working on summarizing that data here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and we'll have a little more on that later. Our preliminary looks, without getting any weights or differences, I don't want to release that, but getting our preliminary looks, I'd say breeds have definitely converged in their mature weight. So if you talked about British breeds, and that is somewhat published, if you talk about British breeds from cycle 7, they've caught up to the continental breeds at that time. And I think that's kind of what we see as a very much a consistently similar mature weight across those breeds from that cycle 7 data. So, yep.
So in other words, continental breeds haven't continued to grow, maybe
Not mature weight, they might have moderated. Well, I don't want to say moderated because they've probably all gotten bigger at mature weight, but they haven't gone up as quickly as the British breeds have based on that data. So, yeah.
Did we miss anything?
No, I think we're pretty good.
Thank you.